All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming back to the second episode of Narrow Squeak. I am Sheena.
And I'm Crystal.
And we're hoping that this one hopefully will have a little better audio quality, and we're learning as we go. So this is our first podcast ever, and again, second episode. So thanks again for coming.
Yes, thank you guys so much. What you don't know is in the background, it's taken us a solid 45 minutes of my family just not being quiet.
Yeah, I did get serenaded by a toddler, though, so that was pretty awesome.
She totally did. And the
With
toddler,
her ukulele.
with the ukulele, and then she demanded that I bring the ukulele back after we were done. So that was fun.
That was good. And we've tried sitting in cars and moving from the house. Anyway, so we think we have it down pat this time.
I'm going to delete all the recordings up till now. So, Sheena, do you have anything exciting or new to share?
I do not. I was hoping to have information for everyone because I just kind of quickly scrolled past a news article the other day about a woman in Sweden who's up on suspicion for locking her son up for 28 years, but I didn't have a chance to read the article, so I don't really have any information on that to share, just that it was a pretty alarming headline. So other than that, I don't really have much.
There was another woman that did that back in like the late 1800s, wasn't there? Where she like locked her daughter up for her whole life.
Yeah, I think there was something like she wanted to marry someone that her mother didn't approve of or something. So
yeah,
got locked away forever, which is just awful.
Ugh, I couldn't imagine that. Like, how do you put your child somewhere? How do people not notice or not question it? I guess.
Yeah, well, and I think even in that, like in the old one, there was like they were quite wealthy, so they had lots of like butlers and stuff around the house, and like no one ever breathed a word of it. So
yeah,
there was a lot of people involved in that one, which makes it even worse.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to kind of read a little bit more and follow that case a bit. But other than that, I don't really have anything interesting to share. How about you?
That could be, well, I'll get to my stuff in a minute. But that could be a topic for one of our, like a theme, is people that were locked up, because I have a story, and I think you know which story it is, but it's one of my favorites.
Yes, it is. I've seen you post the diagram.
We've talked about it.
Facebook. In the comments.
Don't give it away, Sheena. Don't give it away.
I won't. Actually, I thought of that, and then another topic I'd like to cover. It just kind of popped in my head today, but Elise Lamb.
Oh yes.
She just doing like just freaky disappearances, or like even if we did a whole episode on the Cecil Hotel itself, because like there's a lot of strange shit that happens there. So there's so many cool ideas. I'm kind of excited.
They're really cool. Now, for those just tuning in, we did start out with the idea that we were going to talk about people's stories of like close encounters with murder or death or true crime or any variation. Now we've kind of started to morph it into this like, let's pick a topic or let's pick a theme and then do our thing based on that. And it seems to be working so far. Doesn't mean we don't want your letters, though. We want them, and we want to read them, and we want you to read them. So
of course. So if you've been feeling a little shy, but you're not quite sure, you can always send us something, anonymously. We don't have to use your name or anything like that. But if you do have something a little freaky that you'd like to share, then send that our way, because while we're waiting for letters, we'll keep doing themed episodes. And even once we get some, we'll probably continue with some of these, but we're looking forward to hearing from you guys, because that's what makes us so exciting, is the dialogue between us. So yay!
I'm excited.
Me too.
So what I'm most excited about is, have you seen what's coming out on Netflix?
I have not.
So our first episode was about the cases that inspired us, or the cases that started to make us interested in true crime. And the one I wish I had thought of this one first, because my fascination in both of them came out at about the same time. So Netflix is starting a series, and it's like a dramatized series based
Okay.
on Selena Quintanilla. And please, someone correct me how to say that last name. Um,
Oh, the pop star.
yes, so the Spanish pop star, she
Oh.
was the biggest name, was headed to be like a superstar. Um, and they put out a movie when we were young, and it was actually the first movie that really took Jennifer Lopez and turned her from like a backup dancer and a rising star and just shot her right up. She did a fantastic job. And if you actually watch some of the videos of Selena side by side with Jennifer Lopez, it's
She gets it spot on,
perfect.
eh?
Now, this girl that they've got to play Selena now, her name is Christian Serrato. She was in like Twilight and stuff when she was young.
Okay.
She looks just like her, to the point that I actually, some of the scenes, and when I say just like her, she actually looks like Jennifer Lopez, to the
Oh,
point that
wow.
there's some scenes where I'm like, I can't tell if that is from the original movie
Oh,
or
wow.
if this is this new girl. So I'm really excited, and
Oh,
it
so the casting
starts.
did well on this.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, if it's like that close.
Oh yeah. So they really did a great job. So I'm excited, super excited to see that.
Ooh, and when does that come on Netflix?
Tomorrow.
Oh, guess what I'm doing Friday night? I'm eating
Yeah.
nachos and watching Selena.
Exactly. Me too. So this theme that we went with this week, if you caught last week's episode, um, this theme is Christmas themed. So we wanted to talk about something that happened on Christmas, Christmas Day, and maybe something to do with Santa, just something around Christmas because it's coming up.
And we
And
really wanted to bring everyone that Christmas cheer.
these did not bring me any cheer. These took me
I
down
know.
a deep, dark, sad hole.
It definitely made me question every Christmas party I'm going to be invited to in the future, after COVID, of course. I might think
Oh,
twice about them.
think twice, think three times, maybe don't go.
I think when we were chatting earlier, you mentioned kind of going down like a deep, dark hole of
Oh my.
Christmas stuff.
Okay, so when you look up Santa murders, and I don't highly recommend doing this to anybody listening, please don't do this unless you really want to become depressed. But people, like, not only do a lot of murders happen at Christmas time, but people are vicious. Like, I have never seen so many cases that involved hammers, crowbars, stabbings, dismemberment. So many,
Oh,
so
yeah.
many. It
The
was
only thing that
awful.
should be getting dismembered is the turkey. That's it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Maybe edit that out. Continue.
Thanks, Steve.
Oh God. So dark.
Okay, so but I wanted to skip the big ones because we all know. So I have a problem with unsolved ones. They're not my favorite. I know some people love them, but I really need the closure of finding the guy that did it or the woman that did it. So I skipped the big ones. I skipped Joan Bonet for that reason.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
a unsolved, and I think most people probably know a lot of the details of that case. It's still interesting to chat about, but it really gets you thinking. But it is unresolved, and just like it's still very unsettling.
exactly. So I skipped that one. The other one is the Lacey Peterson one, and again, it's overdone. Like everybody has talked about Lacey Peterson. I don't think there's a person in the world out there who likes true crime that doesn't know every detail about that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to find a lesser known case, something that was maybe a little more unique. So I even went a step further because we both probably looked at the same lists of Christmas, like not top 12, because that sounds super morbid.
12 Days of Christmas.
The 12 days of Christmas. So we looked at that list and the three murders or three most awful murders of Christmas and all those lists. So I went through all those and I hated them all because they all made me very, very sad. And this
Yep.
case makes me super sad too, but at least there's
Some resolution.
there's a resolution to it, and there's some things to talk about with it that I really wanted to talk about. So
Okay.
I decided to go with the case of the murder of Katie Locke. Do you know who Katie Locke is?
I do not. So I'm really excited to hear a story I've never heard before.
So I'm pretty sure that this is a English murder. So now
Okay.
imagine meeting a guy on a dating website and he checks all the boxes. He's smart, he has a job, you've been talking on the site for a while, it's been going well, you finally decide to meet in person. Everything's going great at the date, you're both drinking, having fun, you decide to take it to a hotel.
Uh-oh.
Uh-huh.
Things are about
Now,
to get freaky.
imagine finding out at this point that you were horribly wrong about everything.
Uh...
And that is what happened to Katie Locke. Katie there's not a lot of detail on her, other than the fact that she was just a fantastic person. Katie was a 23-year-old teacher and decided to try her hand at online dating and she joined Plenty of Fish.
I was going to say it had to be Plenty of Fish. I'm not even lying. I was 100% going to say that.
Well, there's more than one dating
Never go on POF.
There's more than one. Hey, some people can find their way through Plenty of Fish.
I know.
But there's just precautions that you need to take. But this is also not the only dating website that gets referenced in this case. I wish I was kidding.
I guess on online, yeah. Don't go to the hotel right after the first date.
Yeah, just take it slow. Take it slow with online dating. So, Plenty of Fish. And this is where she meets Carl Langdell. On paper, Carl seems like a catch. He's good looking. Like, I saw a picture of him. He's not my type, but his pictures, he seems like a normal guy, good looking enough, and he's a lawyer with his own law firm.
Okay.
All right. What online dating websites don't tell you, though, is their client's mental health history.
They ask that?
No, they don't.
Oh, that's like, is that recorded somewhere? They just don't show it?
No, they don't record it. And it's not their job to record it, but
Definitely not.
You wish that they did. At least I wish they did, for Katie's sake. So because of this, Katie had no idea that Carl had spent the past 2 years in and out of psychiatric facilities. She also didn't know that on at least one occasion he had outlined to a nurse that he had violent fantasies of murdering women and raping them. He also
just let him back out.
Well, this is the thing. I'll get there. He had also told a nurse, and it's unclear if it's the same nurse or a different one, he had fantasized about his girlfriend's younger sister, saying he wanted to cut her throat, see her naked, and have sex with her after she was dead. So when he told the nurse this, he also said that he would call her, the nurse, before the act, during, and after to prove that he was actually doing it.
Oh boy.
For whatever reason, this information didn't actually get passed on to the psychiatrist, so they released him.
Man.
Right. All of this just proves that the mental health care crisis doesn't just reside here in Canada, which is where we are. There's a worldwide issue around proper care and communication around mental health, and I believe wholeheartedly that the system failed poor Katie.
We won't get into all that, but there is a lot of gaps there, and hopefully in time we can start to kind of work on that as a society here and everywhere else. But it's devastating when things like what you're about to tell me happen from flaws in the system. So
exactly. And this, like, had the right steps been taken, or and I'm not saying that this is because of one psychiatrist or because of one nurse. Absolutely not. There were warning signs, and it is very hard with mental health to tell when something is a threat versus something that someone is just saying to get a rise out of people. And it is very, very hard to find that line. And I think there just needs to be a lot more education worldwide about it, because it could prevent someone's death.
Definitely. And funding and resources, but that's a whole other that's a whole topic we can have a whole other podcast.
Totally could. So back to Katie. So it's Christmas Eve. Katie and Carl decide it's time to finally meet in person. They go out to a bar in so it is England, in East London for a few drinks. The evening goes well. They're both having fun and decide to take their date to a hotel room. They take a taxi to Theobald's Park Hotel. And during the ride, Carl vomits in the taxi. By this time, he is so intoxicated that Katie actually has to help hold him up while they're checking into the hotel. So on top of having mental health issues and probably being on multiple medications, he's drinking, which is probably not recommended based on whatever's going on with him, right? Whatever treatment. Usually you're not supposed to drink. So this is
alcohol's not good on many levels, let alone if you're mixing it with many medications.
Exactly. The next morning, the guest in the room next to Carl and Katie's calls down to the front desk because the door to the fire escape is jammed open with a coat hanger. And then Carl asks for a late checkout. He leaves at 2:00 alone. And I just need to say that all of this stuff happening to these poor people at the hotel, so I used to work as a hotel night auditor. This was my nightmare. Like, this was, I was terrified of being that person that walked down the hall and saw something happening, or finding someone, or having something happen while I was on duty. I was absolutely terrified that stuff would happen. Luckily, it never did. I mean, some fun and weird and scary shit happens because that's what happens in a hotel, but nothing at this level.
I'm happy you made it out scar-free.
Gee, thanks.
You're welcome.
So then when the housekeepers go in, they found all the towels and bedding were missing and the window lock was broken. This may seem like a major red flag, but again, working in a hotel, I can tell you that having the bedding and towels go missing, not super out of the ordinary. So it wouldn't have really sparked anyone to go searching for someone, right?
Yeah.
So a few hours later, Carl calls another woman that he had been dating on Tinder. This guy was all over. Like, he was on every dating app, right?
I feel like I know this story now. But continue. It's like get my mind going, but continue talking.
It's recent, so it wouldn't surprise me if you knew it. So this girl that he had been dating on Tinder, he basically told her that he had killed somebody and was going to prison. So he was essentially saying goodbye to his other girlfriend because he had killed the one from Plenty of Fish. Like, that's
exactly the moment I would delete all social media.
Yeah, I'd be done. I'd be like, this is not for me. I'm just gonna go meet someone at the corner store. Yeah. So okay, so now it's Christmas Day and Katie hasn't shown up at home, which is understandably concerning for her father. So he goes out searching for her. And it sounds like she took some of the right steps because pretty much right away it brings him to Carl Langdell's mother's house. So he was able to find out where she was and who she had been with, right? Carl's mother calls him to find out if he had seen Katie, at which point he confesses to her over the phone, calling himself a monster. He admits to strangling Katie and wrapping her in a quilt, putting her in a trolley, and leaving her body on the hotel grounds. He said he always intended to tell her, his mother, but wanted to wait until after the holidays so it didn't ruin his family's Christmas.
Oh, isn't that nice of him?
It was very considerate, right? So Katie's father calls the police and they start searching for Carl. They do find him relatively quickly in Lee Valley Park, at which time he tells them exactly where to find Katie on the grounds. He also tells them that not only had he strangled her, but he had also had sex with her body after the fact and then taken pictures. He does, in another interview that I read, he does also admit to looking at the pictures after, but I think he deleted them. So then when he originally confesses to the murder, he also says that the choking at the beginning was consensual, but midway through, he had changed his mind and just decided to actually kill her. So he just continued to choke her. That is how it all happened. They do go from there, and they find her body on the grounds exactly where he said that they would find her. And in 2016, Carl Langdell is sentenced to 26 years in a mental health facility for Katie Locke's murder. Now, this is just a little added part that I found separately, that in 2017, while incarcerated, Carl got himself an extra 3 years added on by choking a prison guard for not opening the door to a cell he wanted to go into.
He really likes to choke, eh?
He's got a thing for the choking. And the guard was fine and safe afterwards, had a bit of PTSD, I think. And
understandable.
Of course. And needed a little bit of rehab, kind of like some time to heal and stuff, but otherwise he was fine. So when I was reading on this case, though, I thought it was good to actually look into, like, the way life is now. Online dating is the thing, especially with COVID, where people are stuck in their house and they can't go anywhere. It's not like you can go down to a restaurant or to the bar or whatever and meet somebody. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah, and now everyone's wearing a mask, so you don't really know what they look like.
Right.
So you'd rather see pictures online.
Or video chatting, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look up ways that people can be safe while dating. And I want to be very, very, very clear. It sounds like from this case, Katie did a bunch of these things. People knew who to look for. They did take taxis. So some of the stuff that I'm going to go over, she did some of this stuff. So it's not saying that Katie didn't do what could have kept her safe. It's just saying, like, people need to have this hypervigilance and be aware that you don't necessarily know who it is you are meeting, even though you feel like they've spilled their guts. They maybe haven't given you all the details.
Yeah.
So I started looking up different ways that people can be safe while navigating the new dating world online. And I found some really good tips from all over the place. So the number one thing, even before, like, as you're setting up your dating profile, the suggestion is to make your profile picture a different one from any of your other social media accounts.
That's such a good idea.
Well, and I didn't know this, but apparently with technology becoming what it is, they can take that picture and they can find
you can Google it, like scan it, and they can find you.
Exactly. And I didn't know that. So they can find you and have your Facebook and Instagram accounts before you have even said yes to matching with them. So that's kind of scary. They could end up with access to, like, your family, your address, like all kinds of stuff, right? They also highly recommend making sure your name isn't your full name, that kind of stuff, to kind of hide your identity a bit as you start. But when it comes to actually meeting someone for the first time from a dating site, meet somewhere public, which I can't imagine people going directly to someone's house for a first date.
I feel like you would be surprised.
I feel like I would, but I've also not dated in over 10 years. So there's
they didn't
that.
even have the Tinder back then.
The Tinder. I'm not that old. Come on.
No.
So actually, they didn't have Tinder when I started dating.
I know. I was like, I'll just let her have that. But
Plenty of Fish was around. It was a thing. So if you are going to go meet someone in person, make sure to tell a friend where you are, how to reach you, when you'll be home. Text them with updates so they know you're safe. Make sure they know when you get home. It could be anybody. Just say, hey, I'm going out on this date. Sheena, I'd like you to know that I'm going on this date. I'm going to text you throughout. And if you don't hear from me every hour, call somebody. That
Definitely.
kind of thing.
I'll even go as far as to wear a disguise and I'll sit in the same restaurant as you guys. I will do that if anyone needs me to.
From a variation of Sheena's idea, if possible, make the first meeting a group thing. Maybe make sure your date knows it's a group thing, though, and not have Sheena being creepy in the background with a fake mustache.
I feel like it would make a killer wedding story, so I don't know.
Okay. What else do we got here? I had some other good ones. Always know where your exits are. Like, same as fire safety. Make sure you know how to get out. And this one is So then there's also don't get drunk. If I know if you're in a bad date, you really just want to drink your face off to get through it, but you want to keep your wits about you. You want to be able to know if something doesn't feel right or isn't going the way you wanted it to. Trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, get the hell out of there. You don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe an explanation. If you're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable, and that's the end.
You could tell them your hamster has soccer practice. You've got to go home.
So this is something that people don't really think of. And the only reason I know this is because I did work in the hotel. The hotel had a restaurant. And with that restaurant, we saw people on first dates all the time. And you would be surprised how in tuned to people's body language and signals the bartenders and the waiters and waitresses are. If you are uncomfortable and you feel like you can't get out of a situation, signal them. Give some sort of sign that you need their help, and you would be surprised how quickly they react to that kind of thing. So trust the bar staff if you're in a restaurant.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, not awesome that people have to think of that, but some good tips to provide people.
Yeah. It sucks that we live in a world that has to be the case, but you want to protect yourself, and that's all that matters, is protecting yourself when it comes to that stuff. So
exactly.
Now, the last thing I want to say on this whole case is that's not to scare you away from online dating. Sorry.
We're really an anti Plenty of Fish ad. That's really what we're doing here.
Well, I've seen some great...
Just kidding.
I've seen some really great relationships actually come out of dating websites like Plenty of Fish.
Oh, definitely.
I've had family members meet their spouse, and I've never met a better than this couple, and they met on a dating site. So it's a valid way of meeting the right person. Sometimes you just have to make sure you take care of yourself.
100%. Yeah, no, 100%. Me laughing at POF is just because I've had my own really terrible experiences on there that were kind of traumatizing. So I do make jokes about it, but obviously it is a great way to meet people, especially in today's world. So just be safe about it.
Yeah. So that was it. That was my story.
That's really sad for Katie.
I know. I feel really sad that it happened to her. I feel like there could have been so many other things that could have happened and could have gone differently for her. And she was just this beautiful young woman and just starting out her career. It just makes me sad that this happened and could have been prevented, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that was my... Oh, and I don't know if I said this, but this all happened on Christmas Eve. That's why it's related to Christmas.
Such a shitty Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Mine will be equally as shitty, so.
I know which one you're doing. All right, Sheena,
Perfect.
it's your turn.
Okay. So, to keep the Christmas cheer rolling along, I thought I would tell everybody about the Covina Christmas Massacre. So this is a Christmas Eve tragedy that happened in 2008. And before getting into a lot of the devastating details of the massacre, although you knew that it would be terrible just based on the title itself, I just want to provide you a little bit of backstory on some of the individuals involved. In particular, Bruce Jeffrey Pardo. Mr. Bruce was born in 1963. I believe his father was an engineer, and I'm not really sure what his mother was up to in his early life. According to those that knew Bruce while he was in university, they would state that he was always a class clown, wanted to be the center of attention. He was very outgoing. I think at like one of his graduations, he was carrying like a blow-up doll on stage, so just kind of like wanted to be the center of attention. And it's also noted that he was quite intelligent. He graduated with a degree in computer science and went on to get a job at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So I looked that up, and because I was intrigued by what that meant. And it's a unique national research facility that carries out robotic, space, and Earth missions. Yeah, so that's how smart he was, I guess, if you want to look at where his career path was. So he worked there as a software engineer, but allegedly he was actually a pretty shitty employee. And he decided to use like his brain power to, instead of helping the company out, he would hack the computer systems at work just to kind of spy on his coworkers and find out what their salaries were, like all this weird stuff.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so there's a little bit of a weirdo. So now we're in 1988, and he meets a woman at work. Her name's Delilah. Shortly after they meet, they're engaged, and Bruce somehow says that he has no money, even though I'm sure like a job like that paid quite handsomely. But he convinces Delilah that he wants to get married. He just wants her to spend all of her savings on their wedding. So Delilah goes, yeah, sure, that sounds like a great plan.
Oh my God.
So we're now June 18, or 1989. The big day arrives. A few weeks pass. The big day arrives, but Bruce does not. So poor Delilah is, yeah, she's, after spending all of her money on this wedding, he doesn't show, and he
Oh my
disappears for a couple
gosh.
weeks. Yeah, so he's gone for a couple weeks, and then she finds out when he returns to work that he had actually taken the last $3,000 out of her bank account and went on a little vacation on his own.
Oh, so he's a dirty John.
Yep, so that's how this starts. Then we get to 2001. Bruce meets another woman. They move in together and they have a baby. It's New Year's Eve, and Bruce is left at home to do the child minding of their now 13-month-old son. Good old daddy Bruce gets right into whatever's happening on television that evening and neglects to notice that their kiddo has made his way outside and he's fallen into their pool. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So Bruce finally figures out that his baby's not in the house. They call 911 and they're rushed to the hospital. After several days of being in the hospital, Bruce and the baby's mom was Elena. They're given the terrible news that their baby has extensive brain damage and will also be a paraplegic. I guess Bruce had been in the hospital, like trying to find out what was going on with his son. But once he gets that news, Bruce goes, you know what? I'm out. And he bounces away from that family.
Wow.
So he leaves the mom with the baby, even though like it was his neglect that evening that caused this, and he just leaves.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of Bruce in a nutshell. And now I'm going to go on to Sylvia. So Sylvia Pardo, as you can guess, she ended up getting married to Bruce. We'll get to that. But Sylvia's parents, Joe and Alicia Ortego, they moved from the U.S. from Mexico. They're there. They're having a good time. They have 5 kids: Sylvia, James, Charles, Alicia, and Letitia. So by the time 2008 rolled around, they had their 5 kids and had been married for 53 years.
Oh, wow.
I know, which is a really long time. Around the same time that Bruce was evading his wedding back in 1988, Sylvia had been married. She has 2 children, but sadly, shortly after her children are born, her first husband's in a car crash and passes away. A few years later, Sylvia meets another man, so that's in 2002. She has a child with him, however, they get divorced. We're now in 2004. Bruce makes his way into Sylvia's life. They waste no time at all, and they get married in 2006. Pretty soon after their marriage, there's trouble in paradise. They start to squabble, and things very, very, very quickly, they go downhill. It's said that Sylvia had found out about Bruce's son that he neglected and ran away from. So I guess that was like a lot of the issue in their marriage. And like the other thing, I think he was like trying to hide money. Like he was just pretty shady.
Well, no
as
doubt.
we've learned. So, but I think the thing that really sets her over the edge is she finds out that not so wonderful Bruce believed that he was entitled to some tax breaks for the child that he had nothing to do with and had been claiming him on his taxes since he had left that family. So he claimed him every year on his taxes as a dependent and whatever else, even though he had nothing to do with that child.
Wow.
Amongst a couple other shady things that were going on, that leads them into a separation by March 2008, and then by December 18th, 2008, their divorce is finalized. Before that, Sylvia had like kind of moved out. I think there was issues like with who was going to get the house, and I think he might have like thrown her stuff on the lawn. There was like a lot of crazy things going on. So she moved in with her parents, and So while Sylvia is kind of like trying to rebuild her life with her 3 children, Buddy Bruce he's out buying one semi-automatic handgun at a time. So I guess the way that the California gun laws work is you can only buy one of those guns every 30 days. I
Okay.
forget the name of the gun, and I probably couldn't have pronounced it anyways. But so every 30 days, then you can purchase a new one. So he would go in every month and get a new one. And so he ended up with 5 in total of the same gun.
Every 30 days you can go and buy. What is going to happen to the first one after 30 days? Like,
Not sure if it's like,
why?
I don't know.
Why?
I guess other places don't even have that strict of a law, so I'm not sure. But
Okay.
so he waits patiently as every 30 days. So I think his last gun purchase was possibly November, but in September, so September 8th specifically, 2008, Bruce is like, you know what, I'm going to be festive this year. And he orders a Santa suit from a local store. And he asks for it to be custom. So he's like, I'd like a little bit of extra room in there, some extra pockets, hoping that maybe it was for extra presents, but it was not.
Oh.
So then because California, I guess, has stricter gun laws, even though you can buy one every 30 days. So he decides to go to Iowa and visit a friend. While he's there, they have different gun laws. So he's able to purchase 16 magazines for his little collection that he's accumulated. And at this time, so he's visiting friends, he's ordering Santa suits, he's getting guns, he's doing this thing. During this time, Sylvia, as I stated, she's living with her parents, and despite her rough year, the household always would have an annual Christmas party.
Okay.
So her parents always had this Christmas party on. They usually invite neighbors and family. And like, remember, they have 5 children, and most children have children. So it's a pretty large family. So in this Christmas party in particular, they say that there was about 25 people in attendance, tons of kids. Everyone's there just eating and drinking, playing games, having a good time. So they've had dinner, they've had a great evening, and it's about like 11:30 p.m. Most of the kids are like in the back of the house, and most of the adults are kind of out playing games or just chilling. It's between 11 and 11:30 p.m. and at the home of 1129 Knollcrest Ave, there is a knock at the door. Now, at this time, the closest person to the door happened to be 8-year-old Katrina. Katrina is the daughter of Sylvia's sister, Letitia. So that's her daughter. Well, the 8-year-old looks out the window, and lo and behold, it's Santa Claus.
Oh, that poor kid.
Yeah, so it's Christmas Eve. She's 8. She still has like the spirit of Christmas alive. She looks out the window. There's Santa, and he's holding a present. And obviously she's like, oh my God. So she opens the door. This is when it gets really sad. So, so she opens the door. There's some speculation that like he picked her up first or something, but most of the articles state that once the door was opened, Bruce shoots her right in the face.
Oh, that's
so
heartbreaking.
He point blank shoots an 8-year-old on Christmas Eve, dressed as Santa, shoots her in the face. She drops to the ground. And so at this point, obviously she's been shot, she's on the ground, and family members like have heard the gunshot, they kind of saw what was going on. So everyone's starting to hide and scream and like try to save each other. Katrina's actually still alive. She was kind of got up and was wandering around a bit. She makes her way outside. Her mother, Letitia, sees this and is somehow able to get out also. So then she's outside with her daughter and like happened to have her cell phone on her and calls 911. I listened to the 911 call. It's really chilling.
You didn't.
I did. Yeah, I really did. It was just so like, you could just hear the terror and anyways, awful. But she saw Bruce, so she was able to tell 911, like, he's still in there. I don't know who's alive, who's not alive. Like, it's terrible, but was able to name that, it's Bruce so that the police would know at least who they're looking for. So Bruce continues to open fire. He shoots Sylvia's 2 brothers. I guess there's some reports saying that both of them tried to stop him, however, were obviously unsuccessful. So Bruce then makes his way into the kitchen where Sylvia, her sister Alicia, and both her mother and father were. He shoots all of them. So as if this isn't tragic enough, Bruce, he's not quite done yet. and he opens the lovely gift he brought, and it's a homemade flamethrower.
Wow. Why?
I know. This is where him working at the jet place and all these other things that I kind of mentioned, you're like, oh my God, like you used your brilliance to create this flamethrower. It's awful. So with the flamethrower, he sprays racing fuel throughout the house and he sets it ablaze. Very, very, very quickly, obviously the home is engulfed. And Bruce then jumps in his rental car and he takes off. And just to get, like, help you picture how bad the fire actually was, took 80 firefighters over an hour and a half to get it under control.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like 50 meters high, 100 meters high, the flames, like it was just completely engulfed, and like 80 firefighters to get it under control. It's one hell of a fire.
That is a massive fire.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I was looking at the crime scene photos too. Also very sad, and I don't recommend. So between the gunfire and the flamethrower, there are 9 fatalities. This includes Sylvia, both of her parents, her brother Charles and his wife, her brother James and his wife, Teresa, as well as his wife Teresa, her sister Alicia, and Alicia's 17-year-old son, who was actually upstairs during the gunfire, but he died from the fire itself.
Yeah.
Their bodies were so badly burnt that the only way to identify any of them were dental records.
Oh.
Yeah, so it left 9 dead and it left 13 children without parents.
I was gonna say, what, like the kids that were in the back room.
Yeah, so they all escaped, which is, amazing. And even Katrina being shot in the face, like she survived. So the only child that died was, I think his name was Michael, and he was upstairs, the 17-year-old. Thankfully, the kids happened to be separated from everyone at that point in time. That's what saved any of them. Bruce, he's in his rental car, and he drives 30 kilometers. He gets to his brother's house. He goes in, and he sits down, and then he shoots himself.
Wow.
So
in front of his brother?
No, so his brother wasn't home. So his poor brother gets home around like 3:30 in the morning to this, like after seeing his brother's name all over the news and everything, I'm sure. Then he comes home and his brother committed suicide on his couch.
Jeez,
yeah. So police suspect that Bruce originally had plans to flee to Canada. So I'm happy we dodged that bullet.
What is it with people fleeing to Canada? We don't want you here either.
Yeah, we certainly don't. So thankfully, Bruce did not make it to Canada, but he did have an airplane ticket and maps, as well as, get this, $17,000 cling wrapped to his leg.
Oh, so he was going
Yeah, he was out. Yeah, so Bruce, he had 3rd-degree burns, and his Santa suit had actually even melted into his leg. They assume that because of the severity of his burns, he wasn't going to live without medical attention.
Right.
So
he's clearly not a stupid man, so he knew this on some level and realized he wasn't going to go anywhere without being caught.
Yeah, so he just I think that's where his plan obviously shifted, and he went to his brother's house. So yeah, he was like, you know what, I guess this is the end of the road for me. But before offing himself, being the clever little engineer he was, he rigs his car using the Santa suit, the flamethrower, and 200 rounds of ammo in hopes of killing police, or I'm not really sure. But thankfully, yeah, at this point they were one step ahead of him. So that was all detonated safely. So there was no more injuries or fatalities at the hands of the worst Santa ever.
Yeah, that's the worst version of bad Santa I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And then I guess also, it said that he had actually even had plans to kill his own mother that evening. So she sided with Sylvia through their divorce and knew that obviously he was a shifty son of a bitch given his history.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess she was invited to the Christmas party at the Ortegas. However, had her own experience of narrow squeak because she fell ill that evening and couldn't make it to the party.
Oh, wow. So she just
missed it.
And you can't tell me, considering all that she wouldn't have been one of his primary focuses walking into that house.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, she obviously would have been out with the other adults. And so it just so happened that she fell ill that night and couldn't make the party. So crazy. To end on somewhat of a lighter note, 8-year-old Katrina, she's recovered, at least physically. So she's now a gun control advocate along with many other gun violence survivors, trying to kind of, make motions and make the gun laws a little bit stricter because, obviously buying a gun every 30 days of the same one doesn't really make a lot of sense. So she's a strong advocate in this. So at least she's kind of taken that tragedy and she's trying to prevent other tragedies from happening. So that's to try to end on a little bit of a lighter note. But that is the terrible story of the Covina Christmas Massacre.
That is an awful story, but a great way to end it. I love hearing when people kind of take that like an awful experience and they turn it into something that can help others and create this opportunity. It really makes a difference. That really makes a difference for someone else in the future. I like hearing that part.
Yeah, it's great when people can do that, and they not great that they have the lived experience, but great that they can take that and they can share and they can view with other people that have also experienced some tragedies and try to make changes. So yeah, that was a lot of sad stories for Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody! Happy Hanukkah! Whatever you celebrate, just if you don't know that Santa is supposed to come to your house, don't answer the door.
Yeah, I think unless he comes down the chimney, he should probably just not come in.
Yeah,
you know what? I gotta take that back.
I mean, I'm not too keen on the guy coming down the chimney either. Yeah, so this has been a fun, morbid experience tonight. So what I'm going to do, because I think by the time, so we're doing this every other week to start. If we get a little pickup in it, then we will try and do more often, but we're not going to overcommit and not produce. So what do we want the next one to be? Because I think it'll probably end up being in the new year.
Well, we had a couple ideas. So we had exoneration, Cecil Hotel, and disappearances.
Yeah, like weird disappearances.
Yeah. Well, I know that you had mentioned the exoneration one, so maybe we'll get that one.
Yes. Let's do the exonerations.
Okay. And then maybe we can ask on social media, we could put like a poll up or something and just ask if there's something specifically. We could list off a couple like Cecil Hotel disappearances and see if people have a preference. And
that's a good idea. And we can even just put it out there. Give us suggestions for themes.
Yeah.
Something interesting, something different, and we can do that. I like that.
Okay. Yay.
Yay. Well, we have appreciated your attention tonight. I know I have.
I definitely have. Thanks for sticking by us. This will get smoother as we go, I promise.
Let's not overpromise. We don't know if it's going to get smoother. It might be a shit show from start to finish. Who knows?
Exactly. All right. Well, hopefully you guys have a good Christmas or whatever you celebrate, and there is no murders or anything tragic that happens.
At least let's hope nothing comes up that we have to talk about next time.
Exactly.
All right. I hope you guys have a great holiday season, whatever you are celebrating, and we will see you on our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.